Hello, everybody. Tonight I was going to talk about the TikTok ban. It's basically the most searched term right now on the internet, and it's perhaps this is perhaps one of the biggest changes in our ability to check out media around the world historically. So that goes back to the start of the country, really. And we're basically talking about 1 in every 2 people, and approximately 1.5 billion users are using TikTok. And of that, something like 170 million Americans are using TikTok. So basically, what this means is it's basically the biggest change in free speech that I know of in all of history. So I kind of worked with AI and a couple other things to kind of put together a presentation here. And it's basically about TikTok, ByteDance, and the future of what's going on with social media around the world. I hope you really like this discussion.
আসলে মনে হয় আমি ভিডিও বানানোর পর থেকে খান ভাই বলে শুনিয়ে আইছে টমেটো। আমি কি সঠিক?
This is this.
So, I wanted to start by saying that TikTok really has had a very fast change, and it's actually probably a superior technology, and I can't emphasize that enough in this discussion. So, basically, it may have slightly less users than Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and Facebook, but it definitely has made a lot of progress, particularly on the live side, and then also with the human interaction side. So with Instagram, most of the videos on there are actually not live videos, and actually with TikTok, quite a number of them are live videos with real-time creators on there. So another difference is that basically TikTok is not run in the United States, and you have access to a whole different kind of cultures on TikTok, particularly in Asia, like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other areas that they might not have access to as much on YouTube and Instagram. So basically, wanted to kind of look at these trends here. So basically on TikTok, these are the top creators. So you can kind of see, made a chart here. And the important difference here is they're both about the same, but TikTok is a relatively new, see if I could get this to be zoomed in properly. So you'll see totally different people that are on both of these platforms. So you can see here's TikTok, you get up to 150 million followers, and then on Instagram, you actually get significantly more followers, but a whole different set of people. And actually, of the people that are followed, you'll notice that many of them, you go to TikTok right here. So in this far right column, you'll see of the top 20, more than half of them are from the United States. So of the people followed around the world, actually the United States does get a very fair share in this. And actually what I'd like to see happen is a way more diverse people here, right? So you see really China doesn't even have any major media stars on here. except for TikTok itself. And actually, the number one here is actually an African guy from Senegal and Italy. And then you have the United States, Philippines, United States, Mexico, and so on. So the important thing to realize is that the algorithms really do matter a lot. I listened to the presentation with Congress as well as some of the side committee meetings. And basically the argument that they have is an important argument to say. And there's basically two sides of the argument. One side is sharing the data, and the other side is sharing the algorithm. So basically what's going on, if you understand what's going on with TikTok, they're owned by a company called ByteDance. And I put together a little bit of a presentation here. They're primarily based out of China, but also Singapore. So they kind of have an office supposedly in Beijing, and you can look up at the TikTok website and you can kind of see some more details here. And they're started by this guy and his friend basically in an apartment building, and they're headquartered in Beijing. So the weird thing is that I've tried to look up their building in Beijing, and there's actually quite a lot. Oh, well, I see my camera's not. There you go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so basically, a number of weird things have gone on here. If you do try to look up ByteDance, it is hard to get a picture for what's really going on. They have their office in Beijing, Shanghai, Hangzhou, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and so on, many other cities, so you can see that, and then their R&D department and different departments, and so on. So you can't really go to TikTok's website, at least that I'm aware of, but you can go to ByteDance's website to get hired and work for TikTok. But basically, they started it, and there's another company called Douyin. And I've actually messed around with both of the websites, and I would say both of them are superior to the American counterparts. So on the legal standpoint, basically the argument that they're having in court is they're saying that they're going to try to agree to not let TikTok share any user data with the main company, ByteDance, in China, so that basically the Chinese government won't have access to your personal data. And that probably has been going on for some time now. How long that's been going on, I do not know. But it's basically, it comes down to two sides. The other side is the algorithm. So they're sharing the algorithm between Beijing, perhaps, and also with TikTok. So locally in California. So you can see here, you can load up the web page. I'll load that really quick. I'll show you the Wikipedia page. And they're basically located in California, and also Hong Kong and Singapore. But if you want to find out really where they're located, you have to look at this map. It's jobs.bytedance.com/en and then footprint. And they actually don't even show California on this map, incidentally, which I was surprised to see. But if you do search for their jobs, they will show something down in San Jose. But the big player here is really in Singapore, and you can see they have 384 current jobs opening. And ironically, on this, they show no jobs available in China at all right now, which is kind of suspicious on the website. So there are a number of things that kind of like made me worry about this. But actually, what we're going to talk about is primarily how some of these new algorithms might be helpful to look at in terms of actually giving us more control out of this whole argument. So the other concern I have is that the revenue of the company is $120 billion. The guy is actually on the wealthiest people in the world list now. So if you look at Forbes and you scroll down to like the 40th person, you'll notice that he shows up here now. And where is he here? Sorry about this. But they will show up here, and it will show up with about $40 billion as his assets. Where is it? Here you go. So there's just different people here. Okay, here he is. So he has $45.6 billion of assets. So that makes me wonder how much money are they actually really giving away as a company. So that's a separate problem as well. The founders are getting quite a lot of money here as a percentage of the people who are actually producing the videos. And that's another concern that we should be thinking about with YouTube, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. What is the percentage that should be legally reasonable? So with numbers like that, I would say that seems a little bit high. 1/3 of the company, 1/3 of the wealth essentially has already gone to, in a given year, has already gone to one of the founders. But that's over many years. They didn't just start right away. So I have been looking at some of the key ideas that we could do in terms of algorithms. And there's some interesting ideas here that we could implement. So on one side, this does create a problem because basically our data could be shared with the Chinese government and other people that maybe are not very helpful. But when you think about it, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram probably already have, the government probably already has access to those sources as well. So it's really going to be kind of a no-win situation for everybody if everyone says that the government should, that working with international software and certain governments should or shouldn't have access to the data. So really what we need to have is we need to have better algorithms for the users, and what that means is that we may have some algorithmic decision logs that basically track and display decision-making process for the content and delivery, so that users can kind of track what's going on with the algorithm, and then also content labeling. Why did we get certain videos or images on our screen? We should kind of have more access to that in general, so that we can kind of track things. And then there's more feedback that should probably be done between the algorithm and the user to help users have personalized controls over what's going on, and then having the reports be more detailed. So actually TikTok does quite a better job of that already, showing user statistics, and the other companies are starting to catch up now. Facebook starts to allow you to see quite a bit of detail, as well as YouTube if you produce a video. But it would be nice to have some more visibility into how these algorithms are actually affecting who watches what. And then there's probably a need for bias detection algorithms, and us seeing what's going on essentially with the bias of the algorithm itself. Already we know that there's significant bias just because these lists are not the same, right? And there's definitely an American bias here, and also a Western bias, right? You don't see anybody here from Pakistan or Asia. It is actually banned in India already, so there's some questions there. And basically what this might result in is having all social media platforms really be only the ones accessible from your own home country around the world, which is probably just going too far. So basically it's important to think of what we can do with some of these ways in terms of how the algorithms work. I did kind of log what happened in terms of the history of all this, and you can see some of that here. Let me see if I can go back and scroll. But basically, this all started with perhaps back in 2012 or around 2014 when TikTok or ByteDance bought a company called Musical.ly. And then they launched a product called Douyin in China. And then later, quite recently, they started to do this 2018 to make TikTok. So basically that was that's quite recently to get 1 billion users in just a matter of a few years, half a decade. So basically, you can see in 2020, the U.S. had certain concerns, and then in 2021, India banned TikTok, and basically it became kind of a governmental issue, where it shouldn't be on government devices. So one question is that they could actually, if you look at some of the history here, Indonesia has actually blocked TikTok before during elections. So they could do certain measures to prevent it from affecting the government. But then if the common people also don't have access to whatever type of media source they want, that creates a concern on free speech. So we definitely have a question on that, since TikTok already has, as you see, 1.582 billion people. So other concerns that you might want to think about is how TikTok is structured, and who's really involved in this whole thing. So basically the founder, and then a couple other people here you can see on the list, as well as how Tencent is operating in China. So and then you can see basically that it is kind of, they do have facilities all around the world: Los Angeles, Singapore, London, Shanghai, Beijing, and so on. But the vast majority of the people, apparently, according to this AI here, is saying it still is located in Beijing. So even though this map here basically says most of the jobs are here in Singapore, if you look around the world, there's only like a couple jobs available in most of these places. So actually the TikTok team is quite small in general, and that's a concern that I would have, just because affecting more than 1 billion people, they should have a very large team, and a lot of hiring going on around the world, which would be very important to keep it international. So that's one concern. And you can see some of these other addresses, Mountain View, New York, and so on. And then basically this is some of the problems. You basically have ByteDance being in charge of just so many different aspects of what's going on as you scroll and browse on the internet. So I wanted to show you one other thing. You might want to take a look at this. Is the ByteDance YouTube page. They do show a little bit of an interview with the two CEOs, kind of going back. And there's actually very few views on this, which is kind of surprising. So for such a big company, you'd think they would have more views, but they just don't. So, and then the other thing I'd highly recommend, why you still can, is to click on each one of these and kind of go through and see who is actually very popular on TikTok, just so you can kind of get an idea for how biased the algorithm already is. You'll notice that Mr. Beast shows up here, so it's actually more popular on the TikTok platform than it is on the Instagram platform. So Instagram actually has less subscribers for Mr. Beast, so it shows a lot about how the algorithm works. It actually could be quite biased, and that's something we should think about going forward, and understanding this whole TikTok debate. So the other thing I'd recommend is looking at the ByteDance website, but I would say that there is something kind of missing here, the addresses, and if you try to look it up, both on the Baidu website, maps.baidu or maps.google, you will have trouble finding the actual headquarters. So that's another concern I have, and that doesn't show any address here. If you search for Google or Facebook, they will have a GPS link right here, and you can look at where they're located. And there's actually quite a bit of secrecy with what's going on with the founders and some other people. I would say that is important to think about. That's kind of a bias that happens internationally, though. Pretty much every major person has quite difficulty trying to find where they're from, what they've been doing, and so on. But I would definitely recommend taking a look through the ByteDance websites while you still can. Try to take a look at all the TikToks to kind of get an idea, so we can see basically what's really going on, and how we can basically rethink about how the algorithms work. So, in terms of major events in history, this is basically one of the biggest. So, the original event started back in 2009 when China blocked Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for everyone in China. So, that was 1.4 billion people suddenly got blocked, basically from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So, and then Turkey has also blocked Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. You can see Iran currently blocks Telegram, Instagram, and some others. You can see here Indonesia has blocked. It's been a big block. India has blocked TikTok entirely. Nigeria suspends Twitter. Russia blocks Facebook and Instagram. And you can see U.S. government basically has blocked this now in 2024, which is the next biggest one with 170 million people affected. So basically that's a huge change, and these are the biggest in history. So basically this is of the top most important events in terms of blocking major media sources ever. So there's definitely some ideas here. You can take a look at what those ideas are in terms of how we could restructure some of these algorithms and make it work so that we could actually access Chinese media sources. You can still access Douyin, and I definitely recommend that. Douyin.com, I think it is. Let me see if I can load this up really quick, and you can see. So this is their actual TikTok in China. I'm sorry, I think I didn't type it right. But definitely check out Douyin.com, and you can see basically the details there. I think under ByteDance right here, you can see where they say Douyin. ByteDance, unfortunately, don't say it here, but look up TikTok maybe. I think they'll say it there. They don't say it here either. Interesting. So, but Douyin is definitely one to know about. Just do a search for it on the internet, and you can see what's actually being used in China, and it's actually significantly better. So, I would say this is kind of a debate about different types of technologies and how to share. So, rather than just thinking of a solution where we completely block things, it's important for us to look at how we can change the data sharing laws, as well as look at what we can do to the algorithms to make it so we can share research and important differences, so we're not just stuck with just